My name is Randy Howell, and you're listening to the Faith and Fishing Podcast.
Welcome to the Faith and Fishing Podcast, where every episode I'll bring you an interview with a member of the fishing community, and they'll be sharing their faith stories and fishing memories with you. I'm your host, Cam Steele. Hey y'all, welcome back to the Faith and Fishing Podcast. We are going to be introducing some guest co-hosts here and there, and we are still looking for a permanent fit there. But this episode is going to be my first episode doing anything with a co-host. So I'm going to introduce Robert Randolph of Outdoors to Go. So Robert, welcome to the show for the first time.
Thanks, Cam.
Yeah, man. So we will definitely have an episode where we get to know you, just you, in depth. But just to kind of get us, the listeners, introduced to who you are, just very, very quickly, kind of give just the basic what it is that you fish for, what you fish out of, and a very, very brief description of who you are.
Sure, yeah. My name is Robert Randolph. I fished some local trails, the Central Carolina kayak fishing, and I also have done 3 Hobie BOSs this year. Haven't fared very well in them, but it's been a learning experience, and I knew that would be the case this first year on those. And fishing out of a Bonafide P127, and I also have a Bonafide SS127. So I switch those up sometimes. But for the Hobies, I needed a pedal drive, so went with that. And man, I just enjoy it all. All the outdoors, fishing, hunting. I mean, anything outside, I love to do it. So looking forward to guest hosting with you and see what it brings.
Absolutely, man. Well, in terms of housekeeping, that's mainly the thing that I've got. I will say, make sure you go click that All Things Faith and Fishing link in the show notes. I will add Robert's Outdoors to Go YouTube channel up there and Instagram into that link so that y'all can go check him out. But also the new merch. Go get yourselves a Hey Y'all t-shirt. But yeah, so we're going to get our guest introduced, and we'll go ahead and do that right after this. Savior Outdoors gives me confidence that no matter what happens, what I take on the water is coming back home with me. With retrieval devices for fishing rods, bow fishing bows, action cams, and even one that can be attached to your other gear, they've got your whole arsenal covered. When one of these devices goes in a drink, it releases a float attached to your gear by 60 feet of line so you can get it back, and the pressure-sensitive filter means that you don't have to worry about rain or dips in the water while landing a fish. At SaviorOutdoors.com, that's SAVUR Outdoors.com, you can use promo code FNFP15 to save 15% and try them for yourself. Get Outdoors Pedal and Paddle in Greensboro, North Carolina offers a wide range of products and services designed to help protect the environment and enhance the time people spend enjoying the outdoors. With an expansive year-round inventory of kayaks, SUPs, bikes, kayak fishing accessories, paddling clothing, biking accessories, and more, Get Outdoors has established itself as one of the top paddle sports and biking shops in the Southeast. They also offer a wide range of kayak safety and technique courses to get you comfortable in your new boat. They'll even get it rigged up for you. Stop by the shop in Greensboro, North Carolina, or check them out at shopgetoutdoors.com. All right, so this week on the podcast, we've got Brad Whitaker of Whitty Outdoors. Now, Robert, I don't know about you, man, but I am a huge crankbait fisherman. And I have not gotten into the custom-made small batch game yet. I'm kind of scared to, because as often as I lose my crankbaits. But yeah, man, What about you? Are you a crankbait guy?
Yeah. Oh yeah. I love some crankbaits. I like the flat sided ones. I delved into a little bit of the balsa crankbaits, and I think Mr. Whitaker's are comparable to that, but tougher. So I'm excited to hear about this.
Absolutely. Well, let's get Brad in here. Brad, man, welcome to the show.
Hey, what's up, guys?
Absolutely, man. So to get us started, go ahead, introduce yourself to our listeners and tell us who Brad Whitaker is.
Yeah, I'm Brad Whitaker. Started Whitty Outdoors 4 years ago, back in 2018. Love bass fishing, do a lot of largemouth fishing, but do a whole lot of smallmouth fishing out of a river fishing in a jet drive boat. So it's a lot of fun for sure.
Absolutely. Well, tell us about Whitty Outdoors.
Yeah, Whitty Outdoors. We started because of my wife. We was fishing a tournament down on the Ohio River, and I put her on a brand new crankbait for that morning of the tournament, and she makes one cast with it, hits a rock, breaks the bill off, and it just kind of got the wheels turning. And I told her a couple months later, I said, "You remember breaking that lure down there in the tournament on the Ohio River?" Of course, she says, "No, not really." I said, "Well, kind of had the wheels going now for the last couple months." I was like, "I think we ought to get into making custom crankbaits." And I've had my neighbor when I was a kid, he made custom crankbaits. So I kind of knew some of the ropes and some of the ins and outs that he showed me. So, I mean, I've been fishing custom crankbaits for a long time. And I ended up kicking it off in 2018, about a year after my wife broke the one crankbait and kind of got everything started.
That's awesome. Well, one of the places that I used to fish a lot before I moved up here, so I worked at an elementary school, and there was this creek that ran right behind the elementary school, and I was not near as good of a caster as I am now, and I still don't claim to be great, but I'm a lot better than I was. But I cannot tell you how many crankbaits I broke the bill off of trying to cast underneath this bridge. And man, so I'm interested in this. Let's see, you call it the better than balsa.
Yeah, it's basically a composite style bait. Make it the same way you make balsa. It's just I'm using a composite instead of balsa wood.
Awesome. And so are you hand carving these?
Yeah, making them all by hand. Got a little bit of help from a machine, a bunch of jigs and fixtures and everything that it takes to make everything the same over and over again.
Right.
So, but yeah, it's definitely a lengthy process there.
Yeah, kind of tell us, you don't have to go into too much depth that you're giving away secrets or anything, but kind of give us an idea of what that process is.
Yeah, so I mean, I start with a block of material and then shape basically the outside of it. And then once the outside's shaped, I got to make them in two different halves because I do have internal weighting inside of them. And I also run a through wire system all the way through the bait. So from the nose of the bait to the back is all one solid piece of wire. So I make them in two halves for that reasoning. Again, I got some tungsten weighting inside of them to help with casting and just getting the ballast and everything of the bait right. So after the two halves are done, you glue them together and start with the normal stuff that you do on the other handmade stuff. You primer them, paint them, clear coat it, and then put the bill in. And then the last thing, putting hook split rings. And then we have a small pond out back where I take all of them out back and tune every one by hand before I package them up.
Man, that sounds awesome. Yeah, I've been looking at these the last few days, just kind of doing some prep work, and I am really interested in what's called the Whitty -1.
Yeah.
So that's something that I don't feel like a lot of people, at least around here or where I'm at, a lot of people don't fish those shallow crankbaits like that. And honestly, I wish I would have had it 2 weekends ago. We went to the Susquehanna to smallmouth fish, and that would have been perfect for that. But how did you come up with the -1? And just tell us a little bit about that bait, because I'm pretty intrigued by that.
Yeah, I've fished other, really shallow running or wake bait style baits for a long time. It's definitely a bite that gets overlooked. I really like it. I mean, I've been a buzzbait thrower since I was, knee high to a grasshopper. So I love a buzzbait bite. But then again, sometimes they just won't commit to that buzzbait. And that's whenever I start bringing out the -1 style baits. I already had the Whitty body. That was the first thing that I made, was our normal square bill. And then, so I've always wanted to make, a wake style bait or a -1 style bait, something that only runs about a foot deep. And I just changed the lip shape and then changed the lip angle to get it to run how I wanted it to run.
Right.
And, so if you're fishing over shallow grass flats early in the year when them fish get up in lily pad fields and stuff like that, I love it. Smallmouth fishing on the river. I have a small river here that I fish out of our jet drive boat, and I love watching them smallies come up and just stroke that thing on top of the water.
Yeah. It was
other times. No, go ahead.
Yeah, no, it was just, I don't get to smallmouth fish that much. There are some in North Carolina. I'm originally from Tennessee. There are some there too, but it's not like fishing shallow rivers.
Yeah.
And just the last couple of weekends, I got to catch a few of those. And I mean, you can pretty much, the water's so clear, you can see the whole deal from the time they know the bait, a bait is there, and until they take it and get the bite. And it's pretty, it gets your blood pumping. It's pretty addictive. So
yeah, another one I use a lot is I used to fish the Ohio River a ton down around Cincinnati area, Cincinnati and Lawrenceburg, Indiana. And there we fish a lot of shallow flats, a lot of shallow mud flats and stuff. And I'm talking stuff less than 2 foot deep. And it's a really good bait for stuff like that, because sometimes, again, those fish just won't come up and commit on a buzzbait or a whopper plopper. And with that -1 style bait, I'll wake it where it's pushing a wake across the surface. And they just come unglued on it sometimes there. It's a lot of fun.
And I want to talk about just the Whitty, because I am a square bill fanatic. Every time I go fishing year round, I have a square bill tied on. Because that is my confidence bait. I know that it doesn't matter, where I am, what the conditions are. I believe that I can catch one on this bait. So, so this one, the Whitty, this is the original body shape that you came up with, right?
Yep. Yeah, that was the one that I started with there. It'll dive about 4 foot deep or so, on like 12-pound fluorocarbon, long cast. If you're fishing more target style fishing, it'll go about 2.5, 3 foot deep. I love to target, lay downs and just big chunk rock, and even through some weeds. Comes through the weeds really well too. Through some of the lily pad fields and stuff like that, fishing those edges of them where you're banging around, those last couple pads out on the outside edge.
Absolutely. So, what are some of your favorite colors for a square bill?
Favorite colors? I am pretty basic, to be honest with you. I love a shad, a blackened chartreuse, a bluegill, and then I'll normally throw in our bruise color also, which is like a black and blue. That one can be a sleeper. A lot of people don't throw a black and blue crankbait, but I can't find a time where it doesn't matter if it's clear water, dirty water, largemouth, smallmouth, just one of those baits. Some days they will just flat eat that better than anything else. I can't figure out why, but I know it's true. So I like to keep that one honest too.
Now, do your baits have rattles in them?
Yeah, it does. I make them with a one knocker style rattle. And then with the composite material, it's kind of more of a thud. It's not a real high-pitched ticking style rattle. So it's kind of more of a lower sound to it. But kind of more of a thump or a thud than, like your standard tick and click that you hear in a crankbait.
Right. That is awesome. Yeah, I like I said, for me, the black and chartreuse is big for me. Just the shad color is big, but we have one lake here that for some reason that chartreuse crawl color. The like Strike King calls it the like chart belly crawl or something like that.
Yeah.
Spro has a color like that too, and a few others. I don't know what it is about that lake that they're just they love that color. So
yeah. Now, I will say, whenever I'm smallmouth fishing in rivers or just shallow water, I love the chartreuse back and white belly. The chartreuse white is just, I love that on smallmouth.
Yeah, if I had any clear water here, I would try that.
It is hard to come by in North Carolina, that's for sure.
Yeah, we fish a lot of chocolate milk.
Yeah, we call a lot of clear water like 2.5 foot of visibility. I consider that clear. So
yeah, that would be very clear.
Fish a lot of stuff that you can barely see a foot down. So
absolutely. You said something else that caught my attention, and I wanted to bring it up and talk about it a little bit. But that's that you fish out of a jet boat.
Yeah.
I don't know that I've talked to anybody yet who fishes out of a jet boat.
Now, if Robert just went to the Susquehanna, he probably saw a few there, because I'd like to make that trip over there with my jet.
They're if it's a boat there, I did see a couple with regular props, but most of them were these aluminum boats that looked honestly like tanks on the river, because they have a few companies up there that just specialize in building these boats for, I guess, mainly the Susquehanna. And so I was going to ask you the same thing about the jet boat, because I was pretty intrigued on kind of where these, I'm going up there thinking that I'm going to be fishing and not really seeing a whole lot of boats, because, it's not very, it's not very deep. I mean, most of the places that we were fishing, if you could find a 3-foot hole, it was probably holding fish, because everything was 2 foot or under. And so, I'm intrigued also about, kind of some of the places I saw these boats that I didn't think a boat could get to, even a jet drive.
It doesn't take much.
So for people that have, my level of knowledge and under, explain what a jet boat is.
Well, mine is, it's just a standard aluminum boat. It is a little more heavy duty. Mine isn't the big heavy duty ones there you see a lot on the Susquehanna. I wish it was. It would probably help me a little bit. Mine's just a Weldcraft aluminum boat, but it was built for a jet drive motor, and it's just an outboard motor is what mine is. And then you take the lower unit off and put what they call the jet pump onto the lower unit. So instead of having your standard prop, it has a jet pump that literally sucks water up and then shoots it out the back. Kind of think of like a jet ski or whatever. So the bottom of that foot of the jet pump only sticks out maybe about a 1/2 inch from the bottom of the boat. So you don't have anything below the bottom of the boat when you're running. And I can run through about 5 inches of water without too many issues.
Yeah. That's crazy.
Yeah, I mean, when I ran through some places, I'll literally get out and walk through the area to see if I think I can make it. That's when I know I'm pushing the limit.
For sure. And what typically what kind of speed are you getting on that?
My boat is an 18-foot boat. It has a 115 on it, and it'll run about 35 mile an hour or so with that boat.
Awesome. Yeah, that's guys, that's booking it.
Yeah. Well, I have a Stratus also. I got a 21-foot Stratus with a 250 on it, so 35 doesn't seem all that fast sometimes. But when you're dodging rocks doing 30, sometimes that's more than enough. So
Absolutely. No doubt.
I've hit a few rocks doing about 30 also, and it's bad enough at that. So that's the bad thing about them. You run into dangerous areas.
Yeah, you need a welder on standby.
Yeah, I've got a couple people that do, and I'm really thinking about going ahead and investing in one myself. So
yeah,
Absolutely, man. Well,
I've had to drop it off a few times.
Yeah, man. Well, let's dive into your faith a little bit too. So, kind of give us an idea of what it is that you believe in and how you came to believe in that. Just tell us your faith story, man.
Yeah. So I believe in the Holy Trinity. I believe the Father, Son, and Holy Spirit is all one and the same there. And I was raised a Baptist and just kind of always have been. Still go to the same church I was raised in from a little kid. I was very active in the church and had a very strong faith up to about my teenage years, and then kind of fell away for a while and quit chasing after God and started chasing after things of the world. And then one day I was out fishing on Grand Lake of the Cherokee in Oklahoma, prepping for a tournament out there. And it was just a beautiful sunrise that morning, and I just felt God pulling at my heart again and said, just stopped as I was idling out and prayed for a few minutes and said, God, I'm yours. I'm going to quit running from you and start running at you now. And that was back in about 2014. And I've been, changing my life around completely from there.
Absolutely. So it's interesting you're in the same church that you grew up in.
Yep.
I don't know about I do know a little bit of Robert's story, so I know he's in the same boat as me, and I've moved around a lot. My family moved, I think it was 4 or 5 times before I was 3 years old. Stayed for 11 years, and then we moved in between my freshman and sophomore year of high school, and I've moved a couple of times since then too. So, I've done my fair share of being the new guy, and so I'm interested to see it from the other's perspective, in terms of being in the church that you grew up in, seeing how it has stayed the same, seeing how it has changed over the years. Kind of give us an idea of, like, for those of us who, it's been the church that I had my childhood in. It's been 15 years since I've been there. So, what are some of the things that you've seen change for, let's make it easy and say for the better, since you've as you've been there growing up?
Yeah, I had the same pastor for about 20 years or so, 25 years.
I grew up Methodist, so that's another thing that's just foreign to me.
Yeah, again, part of that time I wasn't actively going to church and wasn't actively chasing after God. But after I made the change in my life, I actually started going to a different church for a little while because of some other guys I'd ran into and got to know. Started going to their church for a little while, a couple years. And then after I met my wife and we got married, we was like, this just ain't really the place for us. And I went back to the church I grew up in, still knew a lot of people there, and people that I've known for my entire life and other people that are new there. And we went and visited a few times, and it was like, this is the place we need to be. This is the place where God's calling us home. And so we started going back to that church that I grew up in. And there's been some changes over the years. Just seeing some people that I have watched as adults when I was a kid, and just coming back and they're adults, and just the relationships have changed, but yet still having the people that knew my grandparents whenever my grandparents were around, going there. So it's been awesome. I just felt like family. You know what I mean? Just
Absolutely. Yeah, having people that, new people in your family that
oh yeah,
you didn't get to spend enough time with, that's something I never really thought about either, because, I've never lived close to family. So that being able to go to church and talk to somebody, have somebody that, is not in your family tell you stories about your grandpa or something, that would be awesome. I'm a little envious there, of being able to do that.
Yeah, absolutely. That would be pretty cool. So we moved around quite a bit, like Cam said, in the middle part of my life, and but now we've been going to the same church for probably 12 years, something like that, and so it really would be cool when I go and visit my mom. I'll go by the church where I grew up in, and she goes to a different church now too. But it's always, it always turns your head, and you wonder like what some of those people are doing. So it would be, that's pretty cool that you ended up going back there and able to see those people and see how it's changed, and I'm sure help that church grow. So that's pretty awesome.
Yep. Absolutely. And I wanted to ask, as fishermen, we see more than our fair share of sunrises and sunsets. And what do you think it was about that one in particular that just kind of snapped your attention?
Man, I even took a picture on my phone of it that morning. It was just a absolutely calm glass morning across Grand Lake. The sun was just getting over the trees, and you just had that perfect reflection. I was idling right out into the sun, and just got me thinking, this is what God created. And, like I said, I feel like I've been running from God and chasing after my own selfish and worldly things for a long time. And I was like, just felt God pulling at my heart saying, boy, it's time to go back home. It's time to come back. Felt like the story of the prodigal son, it was running away from a long time, and then all of a sudden when it was time to come back, God just welcomed me right back in. And just I don't know, I get chills thinking about it even right now.
For sure.
Just awesome feeling.
Or was that before or after Whitty Outdoors came out?
Before.
Okay.
Yep. Yeah, it was funny how quickly kind of my life changed after that. That was in the spring of 2014. I met my wife the summer of 2014, and just, she's always been a very godly woman, raised with Christian beliefs and everything, and just everything started coming together in my life right at that time. It just seemed like, and I knew it was just all God's plan.
Absolutely, man. It's interesting how different our leaps of faith can be, but they always end up being caught.
Yeah. And even with Whitty Outdoors, a lot of that's the same thing. I mean, I had a neighbor that was a lure maker when I was a kid, showed me how to do a lot of the ins and outs of how to make a crankbait even. And just kind of my career growing up, I was into manufacturing and making things, and just kind of had the knack for that anyway, and always made my own spinner baits and jigs and buzz baits and all that stuff. So I was already comfortable with some of the lead work, lead molding, and all of that stuff too. So it's just, I don't know, just kind of how God has a plan for it all.
Absolutely. There are a couple questions that we always ask all of our guests, and I know you have listened to the podcast, so I know you've heard them before, but I don't know if you got prepared or not, but ready or not, here we go.
All right, I'm not prepared, I'll tell you that. So,
so what fishing story or memory means the most to you?
Probably one that means a lot to me. I always took my grandfather's fishing. They got me into fishing. My family fishes, my uncle, my dad, and everybody. I lost my dad when I was a younger kid. But my grandfathers were always there, always taking me crappie fishing and everything. And one day coming home from crappie fishing, I had one grandpa in the front seat of the truck, the other grandpa riding in the back seat of the truck. And one of them turns to the other and says, "Man, look what we created." Said, we taught this boy how to fish and got him started into it. Now look at what a monster he is. He goes, he fishes all the time. And so he's got the big shiny bass boat and everything and takes us out. And he goes, and just laughs. Said, "Man, I think we created a monster."
Absolutely. When you're out fishing with somebody, man, what are you typically talking about? What's your conversation centered around?
A little bit of everything, man. It just kind of depends upon who we're going with. My wife and I go out a lot, so we're just kind of talking about faith for one, and what God is wanting us to do, maybe what changes we need to make or what doors God's opening for us, and kind of what we need to be doing that way. If it's some buddies, just talking about catching up with what's been going on in their life or my life. And just kind of all over the place. A lot of cutting up, a lot of laughing, making fun of one another. And
Absolutely. All right, man. Well, we're going to dive into a segment now. It's self-explanatory. It's called What's Your Favorite?
All right.
We will ask you your favorite in a few categories, but we're going to get that started right after this. With 30 years of experience of handcrafting lures under his belt, Mr. B of Mr. B Lure Company is making high-quality spinnerbaits, buzzbaits, jigs, underspins, swim blades, and more right here in the U.S. All of his skirts are hand-tied, and all of his baits feature a baked-on powder paint, all metal components, and only Owner and Gamakatsu hooks. All of his baits come in a variety of colors, and if you purchase a bait in the Battle Shad color, 30% of the proceeds go to the Wounded Warrior Project. To see the quality for yourself, go to MrBLureCompany.com, that's MRBLureCompany.com, to place your order and use promo code FAITH, fish, POD, 1X10 at checkout to save 10% on your first order. All right, so to get us started off, what is your favorite scripture?
I'm going to say Joshua 1:9. Be strong and courageous, for the Lord your God will be with you wherever you go. Again, just back to that day that the sun was rising over the lake, and just knew God was right there with me. And if we're fishermen, we've been out in some kind of hairy situations before, with storms that pop up around us and everything, or I've been out on some lakes and had the wind blow up and waves and everything get bad, and knowing God's right there and guiding me, and let us use the skills to either get back to where we need to get back to, or just to find the next fish.
Yeah. So what's your favorite Bible story?
Probably read it every night with my son, because it's his favorite right now. He's 2 years old, and we got the little flip down Bible book, and it's David and Goliath.
Oh yeah.
He loves it when David beats Goliath.
Yeah, that's great.
Absolutely. All right, so what is your favorite fish to catch?
I got to say river smallmouth. Again, with the jet drive, it's just, it's a different thing. I love those shallow water in the current. Those fish are keyed up, it seems like, all the time, and as soon as you hook one, it's on.
Yeah, so, and the next question is similar to that, but what's your favorite fish to fish for? Is there something you get enjoyment out of, like tricking a certain type of fish, or would that be smallmouth as well?
Probably smallmouth. I seem to do it the most right now, but another one is just any type of sight fishing you can do. When you're able to visually look at the fish and just kind of play that game with them, I think it's a lot of fun.
Absolutely.
And knowing when it's time to move on from a fish, because it's probably not going to react, and knowing when you can sit there and get that fish to react.
So for you, when is it time to move on?
When you throw that bait in there and the fish just swims off, just darts off and goes out of sight, and you can't find it anymore. If it doesn't circle back around and come back within, a minute or two, mean, you can wait maybe up to 5 if it's a big fish, which I've did before. But it seems like if they take that long to come back, I normally don't have much luck with it.
Okay. Absolutely. I have never fished for nor caught a smallmouth. It's probably number one on my bucket list right now to go ahead and get that one out of the way. But every time we have someone on that fishes smallmouth, I'm always asking little tips and tricks just to make sure I have a leg up whenever I finally get a chance to go after them.
Luckily around here we get to do both. Most of our lakes are all largemouth dominant, but most of our moving water has quite a bit of smallmouth in them.
Absolutely.
Here in the southern Ohio region.
Absolutely. So we haven't had many that have gone 3 for 3 on this, but I have a feeling it's not going to because of the sacrilege that it is viewed as. But what's your favorite fish to eat?
I'm going to say crappie.
Yeah.
Love a fresh batch of crappie.
Absolutely. And, down here in the South, this is a stupid question, but what's your favorite way to cook crappie?
Oh, we have been going against the grain lately. We have been doing an oven bake. That's kind of like a breading. It's almost like fried, but not quite. But yeah, it's got like some panko breadcrumbs in it, Parmesan cheese, a couple other spices and everything in it. And it's really good.
That sounds
a little bit healthier than fried fish, but it's really good.
Absolutely. We used to catch a bunch of shell cracker, and my mom would do shake and bake with them. So, yeah, for sure. I'm right there with you on that one.
Yeah, you can't go wrong with shake and bake. What's your favorite fishing snack?
PB&J, man.
I like it.
I love peanut butter and jelly.
Yeah.
For sure. I don't typically say this, but this is the only question that I ask on the entire podcast that I'm going to judge you for. So that's a good answer. Yeah, man. So I don't need GPS coordinates or secret spots or anything, but what's your favorite body of water to fish?
Great Miami River. It's right here in the Dayton, Ohio area. It's where I run my jet all the time, really close to the house, and we have some nice smallmouth in it.
Awesome.
Cool. And I know this is I probably already know the answer to this, but what's your favorite lure to throw?
I love throwing a finesse worm. No, I'm just kidding. I love throwing the Whitty -1. It's probably one of my favorite ones. You can get it. Like I said, I love to wake it across the top of the water, so it's kind of like a topwater strike when one does hit it. And just special bait for me.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And last but not least, man, what is your favorite time of year to fish?
Oh, I love spring and fall both. The fish just, they're putting on weight then. They're eating a lot. They're getting aggressive. Probably love spring more than fall just because I know it's getting ready to be the start of the fishing season and not the end of the fishing season. I am in, around the Dayton, Ohio region, so winter gets really cold and a lot of stuff ices over, and even the river smallies get a little tough to get the bite in January and February. So
absolutely. And whenever we're talking spring, are we talking pre-spawn, spawn, or post-spawn?
Pre-spawn. I'd say kind of March to early April. And then our spawn starts kind of mid to late April and kind of depends upon the year, but, late April to middle of May.
Absolutely. And you're going to start winding things down, man. So what is coming up next for Brad Whitaker and Whitty Outdoors?
I need to sit down and look at what fishing shows I'm going to do this year. For this winter, I haven't done it yet. Normally, I'm already ahead of that, but I've been telling my wife for the last couple of weeks I really need to sit down and look at the fishing show schedule and see where we're going to do a booth at and which shows we're going to hit. And
absolutely. The one there in Cincinnati is usually one of the big ones, right?
Yeah, it's a really big one that just started up a few years ago. The one in Columbus is a really good one too. I haven't done that one yet, but I have been at the Cincinnati one since it started. and probably going to end up going back down to the East Tennessee show. That's another really good one too.
Awesome. And if I want to give you an opportunity to shout out, sponsors, supporters, anybody you want to say thank you to, give shout outs to, all that good stuff.
My wife for joining me on this mission, and for putting the idea in my head to begin with. Other than that, I don't have any sponsors or anything like that. So Whitty Outdoors would be my only sponsor. So
Sure.
I know the owner. So
absolutely. And for our listeners to find you on social media, if they want to follow your adventures, they want to order a crankbait, where do they find you? How do they get an order placed?
We have a web store, online web store, whittyoutdoors.com. On our website, you get to see all the information about the lures there. Has some underwater videos of the lures running, so you can see kind of the action that they have on there, and then have the website store there too. Other than that, we keep. I've been slacking a little bit. I need to get back on it, on being more up to date on our Facebook and Instagram. You can follow us along there too. And then also we have a little bit of a YouTube page. It's been a while since I've done anything with it, but everything is just Whitty Outdoors.
Awesome.
You get to see some of the crazy jet drive runs on the YouTube page there.
Yeah, I'll definitely have to check that out. Robert, man, did you have anything you needed to add with Brad? Any last questions or anything like that?
Yeah, I was going to ask him because I was going through some pictures on his webpage, and he's got a bunch of nice fish on there. But I noticed the University of Kentucky hat. Do you follow their basketball?
Yep, big basketball fan. We have conflict in the house come basketball season. My wife is unfortunately a Duke fan, but I think it's about the only thing that keeps her from being perfect. So
I grew up on the Tennessee-Kentucky border.
Okay.
Not too far from Paducah. So we're Tennessee football fans and Kentucky basketball fans. So
nice.
Yeah,
it's kind of flipped the last couple of years, though.
It has. Kentucky's getting better football.
And Tennessee actually competes well in basketball now.
Yeah, I get scared when we play Tennessee now.
Yeah.
Man, I don't know about this game.
It's always good to watch.
Yeah, it is.
Carolina, there's Duke is puke, Wake is fake, but the team I really hate is Duke. So.
I told my wife Kentucky has a chance this year since Coach K is retired.
Yeah. Yeah, man. Well, Brad, thank you so much for coming on the show. I've had a blast, and I look forward to seeing what you've got coming up next, and eventually finding the courage to get a hold of some Whitties and throw them.
The wake bait you don't have to be too scared of. It's only going to go about a foot deep, so you can always get that one back. You can reach in and grab it. I've almost been swimming before for one of the square bills, though. 4 feet gets a little deep, a little hard to knock that off sometimes. And
Absolutely, man. Well, again, thank you so much for coming on the show, and wish you all the best, man.
Oh, thanks for having me. God bless.
Atollas, based out of Charleston, South Carolina, is an eyewear accessory and gear company focused on enhancing your time on the water. Their floating sunglass retainers are the most technically advanced around. Over 5 years of engineering, testing, and exhaustive feedback from paddlers, anglers, and watermen have resulted in a patented design in a class of its own. They're incredibly light and comfortable, built for durability, sport a sleek, minimal design, float virtually all brands and models of sunglasses, and they're backed for life. So if you break them, Atollas will replace them. No questions asked. Whether you're fishing, kayaking, or boating, Atollas will save your shades from the dream. Head on over to atollas.co to check out their gear and use promo code faithnfish15. That's faith, the letter N, fish, the number 1, 5 at checkout to save 15% on your order. Whether you're a Ned Rig vet or a finesse fishing noob like me, Jade's Jigs is your source for high-quality finesse jigs that raise the bar by being lead-free. Using a tin bismuth alloy not only makes Jade's Jigs eco-friendly, it also makes the jig lighter so you get the same profile with less weight for the fish to feel. Check out jadesjigs.com, that's JADESJIGS.com, to see their full lineup of jigs, styles, and colors. And since you're a Faith and Fishing listener, you can save 10% on your order by using promo code FNF10 at checkout. Another huge thank you to Brad for coming on the show and sharing his story with us. If you want to follow Brad, if you want to order a crankbait, I will leave all of his links in the show notes. There will also be the All Things Faith and Fishing link where you can see sponsor links, website, merch store. I'll have Robert's links in there too. Robert, man, I don't know about you, but I am about ready to go throw a crankbait.
Oh, yeah, I'm definitely going to get on the web store tomorrow and order a couple of those, especially the Whitty -1s. I'm intrigued by those, and I think actually it'll be a great bait for some of these lakes around here. So absolutely, I'm excited about it.
One of my favorite lakes has the average depth is less than 5 feet, so I'm got my eye on that one too.
I know what you're talking about. I think it'll do well.
Absolutely, man. Well, final thoughts?
I thought the one thing that intrigued me about Brad's story, and really the reason probably that the Faith and Fishing podcast is here, is whenever you're outdoors, whether it's hunting or fishing, and that's the reason a lot of us do it, is because that's where we find God, and we talk to him, and sometimes he speaks to us, and in sometimes ways we don't understand. And it's exactly what Brad was saying is, how many other times had he been out there fishing? Well, you're out there all the time when the sun comes up, but just that day, something told him, hey, you need to get back right and find God again. And I think that's why we do it. That's a big part of the reason why we hunt, fish. And I thought it was just a great example of faith and fishing.
And that is a fantastic place to end it. That's going to do it for this episode, y'all. Y'all take care, and God bless. Thank you for listening to the Faith and Fishing podcast. Faith and Fishing is produced and hosted by me, Cam Steele, and is sponsored by Jade's Jigs, Get Outdoors Pedal and Paddle, Save Your Outdoors, Atollas, and Mr. B Lure Company. Be sure to give us a rating and a review, and to subscribe wherever you listen to podcasts. That's going to do it for this episode. Y'all take care, and God bless.